Welcome everybody. How many of you from Houston or Houston area? Oh wow, okay, quite a few. How many of you already have your certification? Couple, okay, cool. How many are thinking about it? I'm guessing more. Yeah, the ones that don't already have it are thinking about it, huh? Yeah. Well, my name is Dave, and this is Brian. We're from Colorado. I live in the Denver area, and so does Brian. So, and for a long time, I ran the last time I was here. Actually, I did the BMET CBET review for the test, and that was sold. Actually, I met with the AAMI people at this conference to sell it, but it was sold to AAMI now, so now it's an AAMI CBET review, and it's all online. I'm one of the instructors in the AAMI review too, so if you join that, you'll probably see my face again or hear me again talking about it. And it's probably a good thing to have. You'll find out in our presentation that definitely opens doors for you. So welcome everybody. It's good to have you here.
Do we have to wait for Sydney?
I think we have to wait for Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's not quite 11 o'clock. All right.
Hey everyone. Hi, welcome to MDX for Houston. We're so happy that y'all are here. I just have a few reminders before the presentation. You know, it's taking place at Waterway 4, which is just down the hallway to the left. So be sure to check that out. And then when education concludes today at 8:30, please join us for the grand opening of the exhibit hall sponsored by AIB. That's just down to the left. And then following the exhibit hall, we're having a career center for each student job hosted by YPMSE. That was off at 6 o'clock at Town Center South, which is just by the exhibit hall. So they great networking event, make sure you're all there. And then just a few housekeeping notes as always. The sign-in sheet is being passed back to sign that. And then if you're seeking CE credits, make sure you scan the barcode. There's one in the back. At the water station, we're going to have one up on the screen following the presentation. I'm not sure if there's one on the sign-in sheet, but there might be. So make sure you complete the survey and then it's attendance and details how. Okay.
I have a question for you, Sydney.
Yes.
At the career fair tonight,
Yes.
aren't you doing headshots?
We are excellent.
So that's a good thing for everybody in here to have a headshot. If you have a LinkedIn page or any kind of professional interaction you're doing, it's good to have a professional headshot. So I'll let Sydney talk about it a little more too if you want to say anything else. But I plan to be there for that.
Yeah, so it'll be an hour from my we'll have employers that are looking to hire, we'll have two professional headshots, we'll have a resume building section, we'll have a mock interview table, an open bar. So it's just a great opportunity to talk to a lot of people, whether you're looking for a job right now or not. Always there's something in there to help professionals.
I've looked at headshots, just from a private photographer. It's very expensive. So having it here at the expo is a good way to get a good professional picture of yourself. And like I said, anything that you do like professionally related, and if you look in the program, you see my picture and it's people tell me, Dave, that's an old picture of you. I'm like, I don't have any new pictures. I used to have one where I had hair and then they told me, no, you can't use that one anymore. That was a bad day when someone told me that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sydney.
Welcome once again, everybody. Good to have you at the MD Expo in Houston. We're going to be talking about ways that you can help your career by having certification. And the first type of certification we wanted to talk about is called CAB-T. So this is a certification for an individual who's planning to enter the biomed field or HTM field. And it's kind of can kickstart your career. So the hospital that I work in, we have, actually this guy sits right across from me at work. He used to work in sterile processing. He wanted to work in biomed. And he actually figured this out on his own. None of us told him, but he figured out where the CAB-T was, and he took, I think there's a course that you can do online. It's called BMET 101, and it's available through AAMI. It's just a self-study course, and he also took some classes through LinkedIn. There's actually classes. He took I think it was electronics class through LinkedIn, but he studied using that course, took the test. He did an interview at our department, and we didn't hire him initially because we had another candidate that was more qualified. But then the next time we had a job opening come up, we said, hey, what about this guy? His name is Redwan. We said, hey, what about Redwan, the guy from sterile processing? He seems like he would be a really good fit. And he actually did like a side business on his own, working on cell phones. So like, well, if he can work on cell phones, he's got some mechanical skills and knows how to deal with technology a little bit. And he has the CAB-T, which is more than all the other. Where I work at, we have associate, intermediate, and senior as our tech levels. It's like a tech 1, 2, 3. But most of our associate techs didn't have that CAB-T. So we're like, let's hire him because he definitely has shown an interest and shown the initiative to go and take that test and pass it on his own. So he's a guy that really wants to work in biomed, and we think he'll really do well. And it's been about a year now, and he's really doing well. He's great tech. Fun to work with him, like sitting across from me. We kind of have a divider since COVID. We have like plexiglass in between our desks now, but I see him every morning when I come in. Also in the same system that I work in, there's been several people in our northern region that have been like pharmacy techs. And you probably, I don't know, show of hands in here, do you ever get asked by people in the hallway or whatever when you're working, how do you do your job, or how did you get to be a biomed? How do I get to do this? Direct them towards CAB-T, I would say. If you anybody, I see you guys shaking your hands back there. You've had that happen before? Yeah. So yeah, they always, how can I get into biomed? I'd like to do that job. And if they're really serious, they'll take that and run with it, and you'll see them again. If they're not and they don't want to put in the work, then you probably won't hear from them again, I'm thinking, and it probably wouldn't be the best fit in that case anyway. So it's kind of a good way, I think, to get people into our career, get them like that base level of knowledge, or at least know that they have that base level of knowledge to start out, and then build from there. And it's really worked out well in our department with that person that we have, and also in our system with the other people we have.
Yeah, and I'd like to add on to that, because how I got into the business was kind of unique. I'd already worked at the hospital that I started out with in IT, and I didn't know what biomed was. I didn't know who fixed the medical equipment. I guess I just assumed someone did, and found out through it kind of secondhand. And I thought, this sounds a lot more interesting and fun to do than stupid IT work. I mean, just my opinion. So the CAB-T would have been a great thing back then. And had they said, well, you want to get into this, here's a avenue to do that. I, on the other hand, went back and got another degree in biomed. So I kind of went the long and hard way around to get into the business. But this would be great for other, like-minded people, or people that may work in the hospital, say like in facilities or IT or some of the other technical departments, to give them the link or the information about the CAB-T as kind of almost like an incentive to recruit people to get in the business.
This CAB-T is pretty new. It's only, I want to say, 2 years old. So it hasn't been around that long, and a lot of people haven't even heard about it yet. So somehow, that guy that works with me, he heard about it, and now that we know about it, we pass it around to people. So it's a less expensive test. It's one that people can do from their own home. It's not like the CBET where it's only given twice a year. It's given all online, and then you can do it. We could do it at this conference center if we wanted with our computer, as long as we don't have a quiet room somewhere to sit with no one. There can't be someone talking in the room, or there's a lot of rules to it. They're all in the handbook from AAMI, but it's a lot more available than the CBET is. So it's whenever next time you see someone in the hallway and they say, hey, how do I get into biomed? Say, oh, there's a good way to do that. It's called the CAB-T, and it's available through AAMI. So all these certifications are all AAMI or ACI we're going to talk about. Next up is the CBET, which is the one that everybody probably hears about. Before the class started, I said, like, who has this already? And a lot of people raised their hands, and who's thinking about getting it, and other people raise their hands. So this is the more well-known one. It's for healthcare technology management professionals that desire a CBET certification, are expected to have experience in a wide range of electromechanical devices, computers, networks, software used in the delivery of healthcare. That's just a like way of saying you have to have some experience to take this test. So you have to have either a 2-year degree and 2 years experience, a 2-year biomed degree and 2 years experience, 2-year electronics or IT degree and 3 years experience, or you can just have 4 years experience in the field and you qualify to take it. So it's not as much as that entry level one as the CAB-T that we were talking about. In fact, the guy that works with me that has this CAB-T, he's planning on taking his CBET when he gets enough experience. He wants to take CBET, and I'm always talking to him about it, and he's already reviewing stuff, trying to study a little bit at a time instead of trying to get a big dump at once. But because there's a lot to study, but there are study group, like I said before the class started, through AAMI. There's a study available. There's also a self-study that you can do at home. Doug, you still sponsor that? No? Okay. It used to be a actual like disc that you got, a CD back when we had CD on our computer. Then it went to a USB drive, and now it's just online. You sign up and you get 1-year access, and it's called AAMI. It's called CBET e-learning. So it's e-learning, and I don't know if I have a link. I have some links at the end of the presentation about that to get to AAMI page, but it's practice tests, like tons of practice tests, and there's a part called practice mode where you can actually go in there, do the test, and then it tells you why the answer is what it is. So I'm kind of the certification person that helps people study for certification. And I always tell people, like know why it's the correct answer. Then if they ask it any other way, you're still going to know the correct, why it's the correct answer. You can ask the question a million different ways, but if you know the answer, it doesn't matter how they ask the question. So that's that learning mode in that product. So it's pretty good. I'll go to the next.
The next one is certified radiology equipment specialist. And like Dave, I do certification classes. We have a certification class through MD Publishing every February. It's called the ICE Conference, Imaging Conference and Expo. And we do a study review for the CRES, or other people call CRES. So basically what it is it's focused on the radiology side of it. This one's a little more involved in that you have to actually have verifiable work experience. So like Dave said about the requirements, either having an associate's in 2 years experience or 4 years experience without a degree. In addition to that, you have to actually work in the imaging field for 4 years, and or is it
100% of the time, right?
Right.
And then it's like a percentage over 5 years, like.
Yes, or it's like 25% over 5 years of your job responsibility, or I think it's over 50%.
Yeah. Don't quote us on these, because you can look in the handbook. We have a link to the handbook.
You actually have to be actually working in imaging, because when I took the test, Amy did contact my manager and verify that I indeed worked on medical imaging equipment. But basically it's the same as a CBET. It's in terms of it covers the radiology portion of their test for the certification, and it has the additional requirements with the work experience.
It's definitely like another step up from CBET, because
it's
a little harder to get, unless you got into like the OEM field, like starting out as a OEM rep for like an imaging company. Usually it's harder to jump from biomed to imaging, because you can't take the test and go, oh, I work in biomed, but I want to work in imaging. I'm going to just take this test. It doesn't work quite that way. You have to actually work in the field first, then you take the test. So there's not like a jumping, like a stepping stone, like the CAB-T, kind of an intermediate piece. It's either you work in the field or you don't, is this test. So not as many people qualify to take this CRES. And Brian has both CBET and CRES.
One thing to also keep in mind is that 50% of the test is common between the CBET and the CRES. So, it covers like healthcare safety, anatomy and physiology, electronics, IT, et cetera. So there is a lot of commonality between the tests, but I would say the source material for the CRES was extremely hard compared to even the CBET, and the CBET wasn't a walk through the park either. But having your CRES, can also open up doors, like Dave was saying, working into like vendor service. If you wanted to get on with like GE or Philips or Siemens or one of the big manufacturers, this would be a good way to prove to them that, hey, I passed this test, and I've actually have hands-on experience working on imaging equipment. So this is one example of being able to take your certification, and if you're done working in the hospitals, or if you want to expand your horizons to work in other areas of the business, being certified would be a good way to kind of open doors for you. This one's another one that's kind of you got to be in it for a while to be able to get to it. So I've had a couple coworkers that were biomeds, and they kind of hit the ceiling. You got old guys like Dave and I that are kind of clogging up the upward movement for some of the younger guys in the business. So a couple of them went to the sterilization side of the business as a way to kind of move up and around, so they could get to a higher position without having to wait for people like us to move out of the way and retire. But so basically what it covers is that you would specialize on working on hospital sterilization machines. And it's actually a very involved field. I mean, a lot of people think, well, it's just some guy with a big pipe wrench working on a steam sterilizer. And yes, a lot of it is that, but there is also a lot of training and regulation that people like AAMI and other groups that create the documentation, because sterilization is huge. If it's not done properly, you can have all kinds of issues with regards to patient safety and et cetera.
To me, it's kind of like one of those specialties that isn't really that well publicized. Everybody goes, oh, I want to get into imaging, but nobody really says, oh, I want to get into sterilizers. But it's not as maybe as glamorous, I guess, as the imaging part, but definitely as a specialty field in our industry.
And another good thing is that it's in high demand. So if you're looking for something with a lot of job security that's kind of, like Dave said, a little off the beaten path, this might be a way to go. And it doesn't always mean having to, bust your knuckles on, the big old steam sterilizers. There is some of the other types of sterilization processes, as well as the regulatory side of it, because there are people that will go out and actually check to make sure that this stuff is being done. So you are looking into getting into a role into like regulatory. This would probably be kind of a fast track to be able to do that.
It's kind of around the same time as that CAB-T. It's only in the last like couple of years or so. That's yeah. I don't know how many people have taken it yet. I don't know that it's really like taken off as fast as like the CAB-T is one that's definitely taken off faster than that sterilization one. And it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of, imaging is like the glamorous, everybody, oh, I want to work in imaging, but nobody usually says, oh, I want to work in sterilization. It's not as well known of a specialty, and not as many people in it either in that part. So like Brian said, can really like be job security if you know what your sterilization stuff. And Brian and I work with another old guy. he actually works with Brian, but he kind of goes between different hospitals and specializes just in working in sterilizers. And he's been doing that for probably like 30 years now or more.
Oh yeah, I've known him for about 25.
And that's all he works on, sterilizers. And he's very knowledgeable in that field. And I don't think he's done the CISS test, huh?
No, I don't.
But he is he's a licensed plumber, which is kind of interesting too. So he has that plumbing, because sterilizers are a lot of plumbing. CHTM, Certified Healthcare Technology Manager. So this is another one, kind of like the CRES, where you actually have to be working in the field to take the test. So I recommend it for people that are, like supervisors and higher, and it's a good way of demonstrating your knowledge of running a biomed department or running biomed shop. And it has stuff on the test, something like budgeting, personnel, like HR issue type stuff. Trying to think. Darn it, I can't think of the term now.
Well, it's kind of
but
like, like a certification for managers, basically. So being in, it would help to be in the actual biomed. I know there are some managers that come in from the outside world and adapt to the being in biomed, but it's kind of, having like with the imaging, you got to have the experience to be able to take this test to do the management part of it.
It's definitely one that you see people that are CBET, CHTM. That's what most of the people that I know that have it are probably both certifications. And I know quite a few people in Colorado where we live that have it, and quite a few people that work with me in the hospital system that I work. Most of the supervisors there have this CHTM, and they all in the field, in the job that I work in. I'm a senior tech at the hospital I work at, and I'm required to have CBET. Supervisors are required to have CBET also in my hospital system that I work in. So, and also my job, I'm required to have an associate degree. So you have to check those boxes to even be able to be considered for the job by HR, because HR, when they look through stuff, they're like, oh no, this person doesn't have whatever it is. And sometimes if it's someone internally promoted, I've had several people in the past in the CBET review that we've done that, oh, I got this new job, Dave, and they want me to be CBET. I have a year to pass the test. You don't ever want to be like, if you can avoid it, I guess, you don't want to be the person that has that pressure put on you. It's always better to get something like that before you need it than having that pressure like, well, I have a year to pass the test. I know UHS of Delaware, they bought a bunch of hospitals down in South Texas, like the McAllen area, Texas. And they used to be GE accounts, and when they became UHS required CBET for senior level. I see you shaking your head. Do you work at that system or know about this? Oh, you know about it. So yeah, they required it. So those guys, when they signed on from GE to UHS, they got a like a bonus, I guess, or money given to them for one, for the review class, two, for their test, and then they had a year to become certified CBET once they started at the new company. So you never know when your company might be bought out or changed or traded. That's actually kind of what Brian had happen to him recently. He works for Trimedx, but Trimedx lost the contract, so now it's being taken over by someone else. And you never know, I guess, that part in biomed or an HTM field, if you work in that, it could happen to you sometime in your career. So it's always better to have those boxes kind of checked before you need them.
Let's see, is this yours or mine?
This is that guy that I worked with, or I work with, I guess still. He kind of I already told the story of him, so kind of feels what this is all about. This slide. He saw the opportunity there and took it, and that's, hopefully we can get some other people, from other professions, because I think there's people that work in the hospital that they don't really quite know what we do, but it sounds interesting to them. So I think that CABT is definitely a good introduction. And even if they just get, like the study materials or start studying for it and don't take the test, maybe they'll have a little more respect too for what we do as a job, but it's not quite maybe as easy as what they think it is. I have some links at the very end on slides. Yeah, there's mostly links to the handbook, I think is what the links were, but yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit at the end.
So then another way that getting certified, I'm not saying this is the template that most people follow, but typically by the time you reach like about a BMET 2 level, is where a lot of people finally get their certification. And like in Dave's case, in order to get to either a like BMET 3 or a senior biomed position, you have to be certified, or your competition may already be certified. So kind of de facto, you'll want to be certified. But this is a great way for organizations to kind of screen out people. And I'll put this disclaimer. I'm not saying that everyone out there that's certified is a great tech, or people who aren't certified aren't great techs. I'm just saying from an organizational view that they may look at someone and say, well, hey, is this just a job for someone, or are they really committed to future growth in the business? And so for a lot of people, getting certified is a good way to demonstrate to your manager or your organization that, hey, you know what, I'm in this for the long haul, and I would be a good asset to pull up through the ranks. And so like I said, not to say that there haven't been great people I haven't worked with that aren't certified and have moved their way up, but I think in a lot of organizations, especially like where Dave works, it's absolute requirement. And if it's not, it's very favorable to actually be moved up. I know myself, I've gotten 2 promotions within the organizations that I've worked in as a result of my certification. I can't say that was the only reason, but that was a big deciding factor versus my competition that were trying to go for the same position.
Where I work at, we have, when I started working there, I think there was 3 certified techs. Since I've been there now, 5 more, because I'm kind of, promoting it to them all the time. And we are building a 3rd tower on our hospital. So we have 2 towers now. We're building a 3rd tower. Before it was like, 3rd tower is going to have senior position, intermediate position, and associate position. And before in our department, it was like, well, who would we promote to senior? We don't really have anybody to promote to senior because everybody that's got their CBET already is a senior. Now it's like, oh, when that senior job opens, I'm applying for it. And I'm applying, these several people now are applying for it and meet their requirements to apply for it. Before, they didn't meet the requirements. So they see that as an opportunity, and they actually check that box before it happened, and I guess whenever you have new construction at your hospital and you look out there and you see this big tower being built, well, we're going to have to hire more techs for that tower. So the writing was kind of on the wall already, but they definitely took advantage of it. And I hope that most hospitals, I want to say that hopefully they promote from within, and you encourage your people to get these certifications as you move up the ladder, and promote your people from within. And those people that don't want to do that, maybe that's, someone who doesn't want to go to that level. And if you promote this from within, when you have a job opening, it's not a question of who meets the requirements. It's a more of a question of which person are we going to promote, because we have so many that meet the requirements. That's a good problem to have in your department.
Another thing kind of along the same line, but this would probably be looking at another organization or like even outside of biomed, is that being certified is a great way to get a new job. I myself, I've had 2 jobs that have opened up for me as a result of certification. I was having my interview with my manager at the time, and he had a nice big stack of resumes and applications there, and we were talking about certification, and that I agreed with them, and I said, yeah, I completely agree that certification is a great way to promote the industry and to bring up people's skills. And then he looked down on my resume and he saw that I was certified. Well, he sat down all the other candidates and then just focused on mine. So that was one, I guess, kind of obvious example that once he saw that I was certified, then that pretty much left everyone else behind. Again, not to say that there aren't very qualified people out there that aren't certified, but if you're out looking for a job or looking for that slight advantage to land that position, that it has for myself on 2 occasions made the difference on me getting the job versus someone else.
As I look around the room, I see some people like older people like me, younger people, maybe people in between. How many people have worked in biomed more than 5 years? In those more than 5 years, have you seen a lot of people, like a lot of turnover, a lot of people kind of come and go? But the people that are like your certified people, they kind of show more of a commitment to the profession, right? Because they have invested in themselves to be that. Is that true? Or yeah, I see head shaking. Yeah, I can't hear anything, but it's head shaking. That's good. So yeah, when you're a hiring manager and you see someone has that, you don't want to have a lot of turnover in your department. Every couple of years, you're replacing people or whatever. You want people that are committed to doing their job and committed to the profession. So that's, to me, one of the things that certification kind of, you already know that if they're keeping up with their journal, they're keeping up, renewing it every 3 years, that, yeah, this person is someone that is committed to the field. Whether, like Brian said, they might or might not be the best tech there is. Just because you're certified doesn't mean you're automatically like a superstar, but you're definitely committed to working in that profession and doing that as your job, as a career, not just a job. Using certification as a license. People in Texas, I saw you already, a lot of you raised your hands earlier. Do you remember a few years back when they were trying to do this in Texas? Yeah? Can you talk, do you know anything, any details about it, or do you remember details? What's that? Yeah, I heard that it was mostly driven by an ISO that was trying to get all their people certified so they could like kick out all the people that weren't certified, I guess, is kind of what, but it went to the legislation at the state level and then it just kind of fizzled out, I think. But it was a big thing in Texas. It was probably what, 10 years ago? Maybe more than that even. Yeah. Yeah. So we don't really have a license in our profession. I have friends, and in fact, my mom is a licensed cosmetologist. She still does a little bit of, she does fingernails. She doesn't do mine though. So if you ever see my fingernails, don't judge my mom off my fingernails. But she has a license and she had to display it at her station where she worked at, and has to do continuing education. Same as like kind of what you have to do for CBET. So I think that at some point with all the right to repair things and all that kind of stuff going on, that they're going to want us to prove, like that we're qualified to do our job at some point. And what better way than certification? I don't know if it'll be a license. I kind of hope not, but I have a friend that's a massage therapist. He's licensed with the state of Colorado just to do massage therapy. Man, I can work on a defib that it can kill someone, or a ventilator, or an anesthesia machine, and don't have to have anything. I can just say, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm good. And I think I've never actually seen this in person, but I've seen news articles about people that were faking to be doctors, and they would watch videos and some on procedures. I see people shaking their heads that they've heard of that before. There's always ways to fake your credentials, I guess, but it becomes pretty obvious when you work with some of those people whether they know what they're doing. But that licensure thing, I think with the right to repair issue, that tomorrow afternoon there's a presentation on right to repair. And I know there's a lot of people that talk to right to repair all the time, but a lot of the OEMs are trying to say, oh, people that work in hospitals, they're not qualified to do the job that our people are qualified to do. Well, if you send them to the same training, they might be more qualified than your people are because they have a bigger background working in a hospital than what your people have. Because a lot of OEMs like to hire people right out of school and teach them just their equipment, and then kind of make them feel like, you only know this stuff. You can't go work at these other places. We want to keep you here doing our 5 pieces of equipment that we make. In fact, one of my coworkers worked for a laboratory company, and he got tired of traveling all the time and being out of town. And he has a little kid. When his son was born, he's like, I don't want to be on the road anymore. I want to be able to spend time with my family. Applied at our hospital where I work at. And they're like, well, you only know 5 pieces of lab equipment. But you've been working in this field for 10 years. It must be something you want to do. And he's one of the people that got his CBT recently since I've been working there. But he saw it as an opportunity. And I think licensure might be something that we have coming up at some point. So-
I have a little story regarding licenses and stuff. So in Colorado, we're one of the few states, I think Texas might have it too, but we do have to be licensed by the state in order to work on radiological devices. So in addition to that, in Colorado, they also have an additional mammography license requirement. So you have to be both licensed as a radiological specialist as well as being able to do mammo. Well, I was sent by my manager, and our mammography guy happened to be out of town on vacation, and there was a mammo unit that went down. And so I was at the mammo center working on this, and it was not on a certified component. So I didn't change any calibrations or replace anything that was registered. But as I was working on the device, the state inspector happened to stop by and came in, and he knew I wasn't their mammo guy because he knew who had the license. So he started asking me questions about why I was working on this machine and et cetera, et cetera. So he wanted to see some credentials. So I gave him my business card. And he started looking at it and was asking some more questions. And he looked down on it and he said, "Oh, well, you're certified, right?" And I said, yeah, I'm certified. And he goes, "Oh, well, there's a big mammography section on the certification test. So yeah, don't worry about it." And gave me a pass, kind of like a professional courtesy. He could have technically probably done all kinds of bad things to me in my organization. So having that certification was kind of a get out of jail free
Do you know,
card.
do you have that in Texas? People are from here? Do you have to be licensed with the state to work on imaging equipment? No? Colorado, we do. And you have to turn in your resume and all your training records, and you have to be registered with the state, and you actually have to take a written test to be licensed with the state of Colorado to work on radiation producing equipment, is what they call it. It's because it falls under the State Department of Health. So that's, I actually have a coworker that he's one of the other guys that did his CBT, but now he got promoted into working in imaging. And so he has to work along with the imaging people until he gets registered with the state or licensed with the state. I don't know if they consider a license or registration.
I don't know, when I took the test, it was a license.
And your company has to be registered too as a
Yeah.
service provider. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, ours is through, it's called CDPHE, Colorado Department of Health and Public Environment. I think it's
Something like that.
CDPHE, something like that. But yeah, that's the test that you have to take for the state is mostly on state regulations and filling out paperwork like 2579, that kind of thing. Those of you that work in imaging know what that is, 2579. So flip
So
on
like
to the
you
next.
said, just kind of from my own management's misdeeds. I was
Right to
able
repair though, I think it might drive this licensing. That's, I mean, and like I said, it's always good to have it before you need it. Using your certification to move into a management position. I've worked with quite a few people over the years that, they went through the CBT review class, got their CBT, and got promoted in their hospital as a manager. Maybe smaller hospitals, I know like bigger hospital systems, they're like higher level, like maybe even CCEs, certified, that's certified clinical engineer. And it's a good stepping stone. And again, something to have if you're looking to get promoted to that level. And like I said, in my hospital, most of the supervisors are CBET, CHTM. So I would say that certification is definitely a stepping stone and has been. I know most of those supervisors since they were techs, and they definitely, that's kind of the path that they followed in my organization. Yeah. Hey, Don. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. In fact, where I work at, yeah. It's funny, Don and I, we do the AAMI CBT review together, and we've been doing it for what, 3 years now, Don? We've never met in person. We were supposed to meet yesterday at the airport, but I missed my flight because I forgot my wallet, and I got here later than I was supposed to get here. But it's nice to meet you finally in person, Don. Good to have you in our class too. But Don knows a lot about that. Don wasn't here, but I stole one of his sayings You go from having a job to having a career when you get your certification. So that's a quote from Don Armstrong that I stole. But it's definitely true though, Don. I believe it 100%.
So another career path we kind of briefly touched on is moving in from biomed up into imaging. Kind of the thought process with that is imaging training is very expensive, and you know, you kind of want your better people to be in those positions based on the type of equipment you're working on, the cost of it, and also the profile of it, what it is to the rest of the organization. So at least for myself, I got promoted internally to work on imaging. And I think part of that was as a result of my certification. I think at that point, though, just about everyone in our shop was certified. But I think being certified demonstrates your ability or your desire to learn more challenging types of equipment and to kind of go the next step. So if you're a biomed and I know a lot of biomeds out there that have always asked me, well, what do I do to get into imaging? I do recommend to them that look at certification as kind of as a stepping stone to moving up to that next level. Just kind of as a way, I know it doesn't directly affect your ability or chances of getting into an imaging position, but I do myself personally think that by doing so, you give more reasons why they would spend the money and time to put you into an
Also that
position.
career commitment that I was talking about earlier too, as that person's committed to that career and working in healthcare technology. So having whatever certification shows their commitment to the profession, and then hopefully a certain level of knowledge too to be able to do that job.
Yeah, no, I think that's good analogy that if you're working on the cutting edge of your biomed equipment, then you're probably going to do well as an imaging person. If you're just kind of hanging out and doing the bare minimum, then that's probably not a good indicator that you're going to jump into the imaging area and succeed really well. Another thing, I have a little bit of experience. So I've worked as an in-house tech. I've worked for an actual vendor, and I've also worked for an ISO. So I've kind of seen
Pretty much every
Yeah.
place you can work at. Huh?
I've seen the full circle of the kind of HTM world. But one thing that I know, I had a coworker that left earlier this year to work for a vendor. He had just recently got his certification last year. And I think based on my conversation with him, he kind of alluded to the same thought that we've been saying, that the fact that he was certified made him a better or made him more attractive as an employee than some of the people that weren't certified. And I don't know what his competition was, whether it was fellow biomeds or if it was just people off the street or that, but he did allude that he was glad that he did have the certification because that kind of pushed him up to the top as far as the people
Is that
they're
O'Connor?
looking at.
Is that Mark O'Connor?
No,
Oh, different.
this is
Okay.
another gentleman.
We know a lot of the same people in
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah, but Mark did. He was certified.
We have another friend, Mark is this other guy's name, and I was thinking he was talking about him, but he got his certification, worked in biomed for a while. Then he went and worked he was teaching school for a while, right? And I think he got tired of that. Went back, I said, I'm gonna go back to biomed. He works tech support now. He works from home. He does tech support on, is it
Baxter Products.
Baxter Products? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not
I haven't
sure,
talked to Mark. Brian talks to Mark more than I do, but Brian was telling me about Mark, and yeah, he was one of our CBT people back from a while back. Yeah, the whole working at home thing, I think maybe other people are like, what can I do from home instead of having to leave my house and go out in the dangerous world, where all the germs are. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah.
You trained him for Phillips, huh? Yeah. We are Phillips ultrasound guy that comes in, he fills in when our main guy is gone. Used to work at our hospital. Our McKay rep used to work with me also at the same place. So, and both of them, I think both of them got our were CBT. I don't know if they keep up with it. Yeah, did you have something, Don? Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. If you were in a right to work state, that stuff doesn't really work. Even the non-compete clause thing doesn't work in right to work states. I know. I want to say when I was going to go to an OEC school a while back. I think it was the 9900, and GE had like a non-compete clause that I had to sign to go to the class. I don't know if you've seen that. It's just saying that I wouldn't work for like an ISO and compete with GE. And like you said, I don't think it really would hold up in court. It's more of a scare tactic more than anything, I think. Using your certification to receive advanced training and education, kind of like what we were just talking about, who the people that are career people are the people you probably want to invest in your department. So usually those people are going to be the ones that you want to send to training. It might not be when we talked earlier about how many people worked in biomed 5 years or more, raise your hand. How much turnover have you seen in the department? There's the people that come and go, and then there's the people that are there, for their career, that are actually invested in their career. And that's probably usually the people that you're going to want to send to training and like kind of help them advance. And they also need those CEUs, continuing education units, to keep up with their certification for renewal every 3 years.
So here's another one. We had talked earlier about the CISS. I know I've had a couple coworkers that I've known that have moved into sterilization. Mainly it was out of frustration over the fact that there weren't any senior positions for them to move into. They were both BMET 2s. And so they've been doing it for a while, and we're kind of, I guess, frustrated about the lack of movement up. So this was a path that they went. They're both certified. So I think that between the certification and the fact that there's a high demand for sterilization people, were both reasons why they went ahead and promoted them and put them in the position. Based on what I can see with the sterilizer guys, we have 3 of them that work for us with Trimedx in Denver. They pretty much call their own hours and do their own thing.
Their hours are crazy though.
Yeah, but
because they're there when there's no cases going on in the OR. So they a lot of time come in at what, midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and
normally early in
2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, really early.
I'll be on call and I'll run into them. It'll be like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I just got done working on a CT, and they're leaving after they just got a sterilizer going or a cart washer or something. But it gives them, and they don't have to pull on call. That's another thing that they did to entice people to get into the sterilization. Was they said, yeah, you guys don't have to pull calls. So if you don't like to do on call, this may be a path to look at. Yeah.
Sterilization. Does everybody know who Doug is? He keeps saying stuff. Doug, can you introduce yourself a little bit and maybe tell like what you do and what your company is? Because very knowledgeable.
Marine Corps and then 22 in the Army.
We'll forgive you for the Marine Corps stuff.
Sir?
We'll forgive you for the Marine Corps. I'm an Army person, so I was giving Doug a hard time.
A lot of training program for biomedical equipment technicians in the military. But anyhow, so I've been recruiting for about 35 years full time. And, we play people all over the United States.
You probably see that CBET requirement a lot then, huh, Doug? You probably see that CBET requirement a lot on your job postings, huh?
Yeah, well, actually, it's amazing. I've supported the season more than anybody. I paid over $18,000 to get the free CBET study guides from 2005, 2012, 2019.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
I have that one.
a lot of the people, though, like clients come to me and they don't ask for CBET. And I said, why don't you?
It's too hard to get people. So it's like another one of those things that if you're going to advance and you have that already, like he's saying, like nobody has it, so get your advantage on the competition. It definitely will help you. Do you have a table or display? You're just in the career fair? Okay. Okay. Cool. I'll come in to get some free stuff from you, Doug.
So another thing, and again, management has kind of a different way of looking at their perspective of who people they might cut or who they might keep. But I'm thinking as from a perspective, if you had the people that you really wanted to hang on to and you didn't have any budgetary constraints, that being certified might be a good way to keep your job. Again, there are a lot of people who this is just a job, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then you have your people that have invested the time and really have said, yeah, this is what I want to do. And, being certified is kind of a way of saying like, yeah, pick me, because I'm your guy. I'm going to stick with this and be loyal. Whereas someone that's just like, well, I guess I could go do IT or go work in the auto industry or something, and I really.
I'm just here to check it out for a little while
Yeah.
and see if it is my thing, and then go on to something else.
So with how things are with different companies buying other companies and contracts and hospital chains merging and stuff, I'm sure all of us at some point are going to run into that time where we're not sure if we're going to keep our job, or things might be a little tenuous. So for myself, I think being certified is a good way to say, look, I'm committed to the field and I'm your guy. Hopefully management sees it the same way. Unfortunately, that doesn't always hold true. So one thing, we had done this as a webinar, February?
Yeah,
And we
webinar,
got,
Web Wednesday.
we got
Webinar
a
Wednesday.
lot of questions on different things. And one of the ones seemed to come up with was on the continuing journal. So basically what happens, you go out, you get certified on any of them, and then for the next 3 years, you have to maintain a certification journal. And so the minimum as of right now is 30 CEUs. And basically that's can be acquired from a number of different areas. And you don't have to like accumulate them all at once. I mean, you can do them like 10 a year, or you could do like 25 1 year and do 5 the next 2 years. It doesn't matter, as long as by December 31st of the end of those 3 years, you have enough and to be filled out. So your renewals every 3 years. There is an online journal, and it does break down the different credits. So for
Categories.
example, if you are certified right now, this course or this presentation would qualify for 1 CEU that you could put in your journal. And if you hit enough of them around here, you could get good 10 CEUs just attending this conference. So it's well worth keeping up on your journal. So the one way that they do it here, actually a couple ways, there's a sign-in sheet that they send around, is proof that you've
We're gonna have a
attended.
QR code at the end too.
And then there's also a QR code at the back of the room, as well as we'll have it up on the screen
Back.
that you can scan. You fill out a survey, and then they'll send you a real certificate.
For your
One thing that's changed in the past handful of years is that they need verifiable proof that you've been to one of these, or that these credits are real. So like, say if you go to a service school, then they give you a certificate, you'll have to scan and attach that certificate to your journal in order for it to count. Other things they mention is, like, say outside you have your little placard out there that says which class it is and that it's at MD Expo in Houston, to take pictures and attach the pictures. You can't just put in your journal, I went to MD Expo in Houston in 2023, and expect them to accept the credits. You have to have independently
Take
verifiable
Picture of this too,
yeah,
maybe.
picture and information to add to your journal. Unfortunately, I had gotten audited, I don't know what, 6 years ago?
Yeah,
something
I
like
remember.
that.
Yeah.
And I had to go back through.
It was
all
before
my,
they started having the online, like attaching all your files and all
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You
but
just wrote it in a paper journal. You didn't attach things. And Brian was mad. He's like, why are they picking on me? You know, and I said, it's just how it is, you know, to be, what is it, accredited for the accreditation to mean something, they actually check into and audit some of the people.
so I had to get like a letter from Dave, because I was doing, for our Biomed Association, I was doing certification classes. I had to have my manager write a letter to him and saying, yes, he had, you know, done this extra education and activities and some other stuff that I had to do. So just keep in mind, for your journal to be able to be renewed for another 3 years, you do have to have independently verifiable information attached to your journal. The best thing to do, and hopefully it's not in December, the year that your renewal is due, is to see what it all looks like on the website. You do get credit for being as an employee in the business. You get lots of points if you go to like a service school. So like last year I went to a CT training school that was 2 weeks, an hour for each. Well, you get a point for every hour you attend. So then that would be 80 hours or 80 CEUs that I got from that. Well, I'm done. I don't have to worry about it. Keep in mind too, with your points, you don't want to just turn in 30 points. You want to put a buffer in there, because they might shave some off and say, well, okay, Brian said he did 80 hours worth of training. Well, I bet you he had a lunch, and you know, maybe they let the person out early one day or something. So they may not necessarily give you that full 80, but you don't want to be at just 30 and then turn it in and then have them shave hours off and not get renewed. So if you do turn in your time,
Get a
you want
little
to at least
extra.
have 35, 40, I mean, as many as you can put in on it is ideal.
I said there was those 5 people that I work with that got their CBT in the last few years since I worked there. One of them, after he got his CBT, luckily for him, he went to a Philips monitoring school 4 days. And he came back and he said, Dave, I've already got all my CEUs for all 3 years. This slide was one that we didn't have in the Wednesday webinar slides. And Kristen from MD Publishing asked us, can you guys talk about this? Because a lot of people don't seem to know there's a CEU journal and you have to submit and renew every 3 years. So we wanted to make sure we made a point of saying that. CEUs is continuing education units. We call them points, all the that are older, because it used to be points, but it's super easy. And there's a category called continuing education. And that one has a minimum of 15 CEUs, but there's no maximum. So those classes that we're talking about, you can get all your CEUs just in, like that guy that I work with in one class from Philips. He went there 4 days, got a certificate, took a picture. Dave, I'm good for the next 3 years. I'm going to renew my certification already. And he's had it for like a year. And then he gets 1.5 CEUs every year for working in the field. So he's already ready to go. Oh, for CEUs. Yeah, that's a good way to get CEUs, is Webinar Wednesday. Yeah, I've definitely heard that one before. I don't have as many opportunities as everybody else has. I'm singled out here, you know, and I'm trying to renew my certification. Well, you can do it on your own time. You know, you can do all these webinar Wednesdays. You can do it after hours, weekends. You can watch the videos that they have posted on One TechNation, and you can get CEUs. In fact, I was talking to, I think it was Jamie, maybe from MD Publishing, and she said, towards the end of the year, we see that webinar Wednesday recording viewing times go up. So people wanting to get their CEUs done for the year, like whenever they're renewing. So these are some links. This is probably a good page to take a picture of. Certification info page, CBT study course that's available through AAMI. Also now AAMI offers a CHTM study course. That's new this year. This is the first time running it. So if you're looking to do CHTM, that's a good one. And then the ACI handbook, it kind of covers all the different certifications. And it's funny to me teaching the CBET review for, this is like my 19th year doing it. How many people don't even look at the handbook before they're doing the test? And they don't even realize, you know, like it has an outline of the test in there. It tells kind of a little background. But to me, the test, oops, I forgot I have this microphone on. I just tapped it. To me, if you're spending $425, just the test is $425. Then if you're doing one of these review groups, I want to know everything that's on there. I'm going to look at all the stuff in the handbook before I sign, you know, here's my money, 425 bucks. And it might not be a lot of money to some people, but I think it is to most people. So that's some links there. Did we have another? I think that's it, huh?
Yeah, so
We see the
we'll
boss
leave this
back there
up,
ready to turn the room
we'll
over.
leave this
So
up here, so at the end of the class, if you want to come up and take pictures of it. And again, thank you for coming out and listening to us, and hope you guys have a good rest of your.
did you have anything to add, Sydney? Or you want to put up the QR code? And there's a QR code back there by the water bottles. So thank you everybody for joining us. Good to have you.
Thank you.